The Devil's Chair, the Widow's Pact, and the Horrors of Gorham Cemetery. I'm going to share some spine-chilling tales about the Devil's Chair that will send shivers down your spine, and you won't believe what people have experienced. The legend begins in the quiet rural town of Gorham, Illinois, where the wind whistles through empty fields and shadows stretch longer at dusk. There's a cemetery unlike any other. Tucked at the edge of the town, Gorham Cemetery holds the usual markers of time: crumbling tombstones, rusting fences, and wilted flowers left by mourning visitors. But among these mundane details lies something far darker: a stone bench that the locals call the Devil's Chair. The legend of the chair begins with a woman named Mary Hargrove. Over a century ago, Mary lived on the outskirts of Gorham with her husband Samuel. The two were inseparable, sharing a life built on hard work and love. That was until one fateful autumn when Samuel died in a farming accident. Crushed beneath his overturned plow, he was gone in an instant, leaving Mary shattered and alone. Mary spent weeks in mourning, rarely leaving her home except to visit Samuel's grave in the cemetery. Neighbors often saw her sitting by his plot, talking to the headstone as if he were still alive. As time went on, her visits became more frequent, more desperate. One stormy night, as thunder rolled across the skies and lightning illuminated the gravestones, Mary claimed she heard a voice. Deep and resonant, it called to her from the shadows of the cemetery. "Do you want him back?" it asked. She froze, her breath hitching as she looked around. There was no one there, only the wind and the rain. The voice spoke again, and this time it came with an offer. "If you want to see him again, sit in the stone chair at midnight. Tell me your desire, and I will grant it." Mary hesitated, but only for a moment. Desperation outweighed reason. As the clock struck midnight, she approached the chair, her heart pounding. She sat, her soaked dress clinging to her skin, and whispered into the night, begging for her husband's return. What happened next remains a mystery, but when dawn came, Mary was found wandering the cemetery, her face pale and her eyes wide with terror. She never spoke of what she saw or heard, but she died days later, clutching Samuel's wedding band in her hand. From that night on, the chair was no longer just a bench. It became a thing of legend, cursed, haunted, a portal to something far darker. The Whispering Cemetery. The story of Mary Hargrove's pact spread quickly, and the chair gained a reputation. The cemetery, once a place of quiet solace, became a destination for thrill seekers, skeptics, and paranormal enthusiasts. Some came out of curiosity, others came on dares. Local teenagers often used the chair to test their courage. One of the earliest stories involves a boy named Charlie Whitmore, who sat on the chair one Halloween night. His friends waited nearby, laughing and joking. But when Charlie returned, his face was ashen. He refused to talk about what had happened, but he never visited the cemetery again. Weeks later, his family moved away from Gorham, leaving behind a house with locked doors and shuttered windows. Rumors spread that Charlie had nightmares so vivid he couldn't sleep, that he saw shadowy figures at the foot of his bed. Then there was Tommy Grayson, a high school teacher who prided himself on logic and reason. Determined to debunk the myth, Tommy ventured into Gorham Cemetery alone one October evening. With a flashlight in hand, he found the chair, sat down, and waited. At first, nothing happened. The air was still, and the cemetery was silent. Then, Tommy claimed he heard whispers. They came from all around him, low and unintelligible, like a dozen voices speaking at once. He stood up, shining his flashlight around, but the cemetery was empty. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, and then one voice broke through. "Leave." Tommy ran, stumbling through the darkness until he reached his car. When he returned home, he locked every door and window. Over the next few weeks, Tommy became paranoid, insisting he was being watched. 2 months later, he disappeared. His car was found abandoned near the cemetery. The Paranormal Investigator. The most chilling account, however, comes from Martha Jennings, a well-known paranormal investigator. Armed with cameras, audio recorders, and her unshakable skepticism, Martha spent years debunking haunted sites across the Midwest. When she heard about the Devil's Chair, she couldn't resist the challenge. One cold November night, she arrived at Gorham Cemetery with a small team. They set up their equipment around the chair, positioning cameras to capture every angle. Martha sat in the chair as her team watched from a safe distance. At first, it was uneventful. The chair felt cold, the air unusually still, but nothing extraordinary happened. Then, just past midnight, Martha's recorder picked up faint whispers. The sound was low, almost imperceptible, but it sent a chill down her spine. As the minutes ticked by, the whispers grew louder. "Do you want to know?" A voice hissed, clear enough that her team heard it through the headphones. Martha nodded, her voice steady. "I'm listening." Her surroundings began to change. The cemetery seemed to warp, the gravestones fading into darkness. Shadowy figures emerged, their eyes glowing faintly in the gloom. One by one, they approached the chair, their hollow faces emotionless. Martha described feeling a weight on her chest, as though unseen hands were pressing down on her. The whispers turned to screams, and one word echoed above them all. "Leave!" She bolted from the chair, abandoning her equipment. When she returned the next day, most of her devices were gone, except for one camera left sitting on the chair. The footage was chilling. It showed Martha sitting completely still, her eyes wide and unblinking, as the shadows closed in around her. The curse lives on. The Devil's Chair remains a source of fear and fascination. Some say it's a portal to another realm, opened by Mary Hargrove's grief. Others believe it's cursed, feeding on the fear and despair of those who sit on it. Whatever the truth, the chair has left a trail of eerie encounters and broken spirits. Locals avoid the cemetery at night, and those who dare to approach the chair rarely return unchanged. But the legend lives on, drawing curious visitors who want to see if the stories are real. A final question. What would you do? Would you sit in the Devil's Chair and risk hearing the whispers? Would you dare to challenge the darkness? Or would you leave Gorham Cemetery to its restless shadows? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you've ever had an experience with the paranormal, share your story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more chilling tales. And remember, some places are better left undisturbed.